If you caught my video from yesterday, you saw that I was discussing how the Bulls have a huge problem on their hands and how the league isn't doing a thing about it despite the 5 Bulls players entering the health and safety protocol, which clearly indicates there is an outbreak going on with the team. And I mentioned how I'm kind of just waiting at this point for more names to drop to have entered into the health and safety protocol. And sure enough, just hours before tonight's game against the Heat, we get the news that both Dosunmu and Stanley Johnson, the guy the Bulls literally just signed as one of their hardship exceptions because they were down so many players, that he's also fallen into the health and safety protocol. Like, you can't make this stuff up at this point. It's getting that ridiculous and out of control. But no, the game has to continue, and let's be real, it wasn't a good game for the Bulls. I know they're incredibly shorthanded right now, and in a way you kind of almost expect a loss, but the Heat were also very depleted as well. And the fact that the Bulls still had Lavine, Vucevic, and Lonzo, 3 of their 4 best players, not only that, but Caruso was also back in the lineup tonight. Given all that, you would have thought the Bulls would win this game, or at least make it competitive. But really, they fell behind early in this one and were not able to regain the lead at any point. Now look, before I discuss this game, which really I almost would rather not talk about it, but I will because that's the purpose of this channel, covering the Bulls, both the good and the bad. But look, this is going to be a rough next couple weeks for the Bulls or so while we wait for all of these guys to come out of the protocol. The good news is the Bulls only have 2 games over the next 7 days, which not only gives the Bulls currently who are in protocol more time to recover while not missing many games, and it also gives the players who are currently available more rest, which based on the level of energy we saw tonight is greatly needed. The Bulls are also going to be playing the Pistons and the Raptors in those 2 games, but even against those 2 teams, when you're as depleted as they are, having to resort to guys from the G League to get rotational minutes, you're going to struggle to win games regardless of who you play. Which makes it unfortunate because these would normally be easy wins to tally in the standings, which may now show up as losses. But what I'm getting at here is we need to fully expect and anticipate these next couple of weeks to be rough for the Chicago Bulls. And I'm mainly saying this because, as you know, I host a live chat for each game on the channel, and so many people in the chat talking about the Bulls, how this team is done, how they can't compete, how tonight's loss was inexcusable, blah, blah, blah. Like, guys, we have seen 7 players enter the health and safety protocol. This isn't the Bulls team that we know. Do you know how much it throws off team chemistry and flow when you have guys going in and out of the lineup? When you're getting called up from the G League, guys from the G League who haven't been practicing with the team all season, who don't know the system. Like, what do you expect to happen when you're faced with these circumstances? And I know this is coming off as excuses for tonight's loss, which don't worry, I'm going to get into that game and discuss why this was still a bad loss despite being shorthanded. But as this roster currently stands, this isn't a good team. And they're not going to be good for the next couple of weeks, so prepare yourself for that. But also understand that there is still a lot of season left to go. But what I will say, which I mentioned in yesterday's video, is it's very unfortunate because it is going to impact the Bulls standings overall, which could have implications on their overall playoff seeding. And I think it's ridiculous that the league isn't doing anything about it other than handing out hardship exceptions to bring up G Leaguers who haven't even been playing with the team at all. But at the same time, it's also important to take a step back and realize this is a small portion of the overall season. But anyway, let's talk about this game, because as annoyed as I am about this loss, there are a few things I would be remiss if I didn't vent about that bothered me. Now, like I said at the top of the video, the Bulls, with the Heat being shorthanded as they were, the Bulls really should have still at least made this game competitive at a minimum, even if it resulted in a loss. Like, they still have Lavine, Vucevic, and Lonzo, and I know some people will point the finger at Lavine saying, well, case in point, now that DeMar is out, he can't win. This is Lavine's MO. He cannot win as a #1 option on this team. And honestly, that's completely false and unfair because Lavine has actually played very well during the stretch when the Bulls have been without DeMar. Sure, there have been some missteps when it comes to turning the ball over. He still goes into playing hero ball from time to time, but for the most part, he's doing exactly what he needs to do and stepping up and taking on the offensive load with DeRozan being out. What bothers me is the other guys have not been picking it up with their end of the load. And the guy I'm really looking at is Nikola Vucevic, who I've said time and time again that he is the Bulls' X factor this season. The Bulls need him to play at an all-star level caliber in order for this team to truly make a deep playoff run. And Vucevic, who who we thought was finally starting to turn things around a bit. He was stringing together some big games, started to look a little more consistent, but the last couple of games he has just completely fallen off, and at a time when the Bulls need him most, with half of the team being out. Like, it's one thing to lose a bunch of players, but when you still have some of your best players in the lineup, you expect them to step up as a result. And Vucevic was absolutely terrible tonight. Like, there's just no getting around it. I normally defend Vucevic because there are a lot of great things that he still does and contributes, even when his shots aren't falling, but there was nothing about Vucevic's game tonight that can be considered commendable. Vucevic was playing slow on both ends of the floor. He was getting worked by Dwayne Dedmon. And again, on both ends of the floor, like, how is Dedmon able to put up 20 points and 12 rebounds tonight over an all-star in Vucevic? Well, Vucevic was getting dominated on defense that led him to shoot 3 for 15 from the floor and 1 for 4 from 3. Vucevic was minus 29 tonight in box plus minus with just 10 points and 8 rebounds on a night where you would think he was going to dominate the paint with no Bam Adebayo. His effort was poor, he was taking bad shots, and even his good shots that he did take, he couldn't hit. And normally, when you see Vucevic maybe not having the best scoring night, he's at least being an effective playmaker. He wasn't even passing the ball well tonight. He was just all around a non-factor in this game. And honestly, people talk about how, with Vucevic, generally his starts to the season or come off slow. He starts picking up his game in December, January timeframe. Well, this is the time where we would normally start seeing Vucevic put up bigger games. And now that he's been even given more opportunity, he's laying eggs. And it's definitely concerning if you're a Bulls fan to see this type of play continue. Now, I know a lot of people have been talking about how Vucevic is trash and we need to trade him ASAP. Like, no, I'm not hearing that noise. The man is still a great player and the Bulls absolutely need him on so many factors, even though he's been coming up short so far this season. Like, he's still averaging 15 and 10 with a PER of 15. That's still a great basketball player. And those are still considered bad numbers for him. Like, no, unless the Bulls are getting something crazy good for him in return, you're not trading Vucevic. Not after having only played 20 games so far this season anyway. Now, the other guy who I was a little disappointed in tonight, who didn't step up when the Bulls needed him, was also Lonzo Ball. He played well on defense, especially on guarding Tyler Hero, but he was just playing some sloppy basketball on offense. Bad passes, out of control plays in transition. He turned the ball over 5 times in this game with a minus 20 on the night and shot 4 for 12 from 3. Like, I know Lonzo has changed his game into being more of a 3-point shooter, but come on now. You shouldn't be putting up that many threes when you're missing the majority of them. That's when it's time to start running the floor and passing the ball more, but again, he couldn't even do that because he kept turning the ball over. And even Alex Caruso, with him being back, he was a bit of a non-factor tonight. I'm sure he's still recovering from his injury, but no type of hustle and energy that we normally see from Caruso that really ignites the rest of this roster with his effort. That wasn't there tonight. Now, the other thing I cannot for the life of me understand, and I really need someone to explain this to me in the comments with your thoughts on the matter, but that's why Alize Johnson is barely getting any playing time. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Alize is a phenomenal player and that he needs to be getting all of these minutes, starter minutes, anything like that. But when Patrick Williams went down and was going to miss the rest of this season, I thought for sure this was going to be an opportunity for Alize, even if it still meant him coming off the bench and maybe not necessarily getting that many minutes, that he was going to be getting more playing time, even with Javonte Green starting. Then when Vucevic was out, same thing, no minutes for Alize. Javonte Green goes into the health and safety protocol, still nothing. And even with 7 players out, and again, the Bulls struggling with size, we always talk about how they don't have a 4, Alize gets 5 minutes tonight, and it's in garbage time. Billy Donovan played Alfonso McKinney, a guy they just signed to a 10-day contract via the hardship exception, 29 minutes. He was a minus 31 in 29 minutes in box plus minus tonight. It honestly makes 0 sense to me. At least give some run to see how he does and how he can help out at least at rebounding at a minimum. Even Tony Bradley, another guy who's barely gotten any playing time, I don't understand it, and I need someone to explain to me in the comments because I'm not a coach, but there's just got to be something that I'm missing here for why Alize isn't getting any minutes. A good player who is a good hustler, rebounder, and gives you size. Anyway, overall, the Bulls got worked on the glass tonight, getting out-rebounded 50-34. This was also a 3-point shootout for both teams, with both of them shooting 40-plus three-pointers each. The Bulls 17 for 40 from 3, while the Heat were 19 from 43. The Bulls did not do a good job at defending the perimeter, which the Heat took advantage of, knowing that they didn't really have much inside presence and mid-range game without Jimmy and Bam, although I guess I should take that back considering Dedmon put up 20 freaking points. The Heat also did a great job at taking care of the ball and turning it over only 8 times, while the Bulls turned it over 14. Lonzo and Lavine combining for 9 of those 14 turnovers. So look, a bad game, and it's going to be a rough patch for the next couple weeks, guys, but the Bulls faithful will hang in. I know you guys will. The Bulls are off until Tuesday, where they'll be back at the United Center. I may or may not have a video up tomorrow, we'll see, but I will have my weekly preview video out on Monday, so be on the lookout for that. As always, guys, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.